I'm just going to go through the paper and I'm just going to think about how I would approach it if I was a student at this time and what am I doing as a teacher in order to pick up marks even if I'm making some arithmetic error. So, the first question says work out 2 times 10 cubed multiplied by 4 times 10 to the 4. So the first thing I'm going to notice is that these terms are multiplied together. So therefore what I can do is I can split this up into being 2 times 4 and then it's 10 cubed multiplied by 10 to the 4. I know 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. And with powers, if I'm multiplying, I can add the exponents. 3 add 4. So therefore my answer is 8 times 10 to the 7. So that'd be how I'd get both of the marks for the first question. For the next question, I would always break this down. It says simplify fully, and I have some indices and some values, so I'm going to do this in 2 steps. I'm going to look at the numerator first, and I'm going to see that there's a 3 and a 2. When I multiply them together, I get 6, and then it's a, like with the previous question, 8 add 5 would be 13. That's going to be divided by a squared. If I was multiplying the powers, I added them together. Now I have a division. I can do 6a to the 13 divided by a squared. 13 take away 2 would give me 6a to the 11. And finally on the first page, we've got 6x subtract 10 over 5 equals 1. Now, with these types of questions, anything which is written as a fraction I want to get rid of straight away because that will just make my life a lot easier. This is dividing by 5, so as I go down, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5, so that would leave me with 6x subtract 10 equals 5. My main aim here is to get x on its own, so therefore what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 10 to both sides, which would give me 15, so add 10. And then the last step is divide by 6. So I'd get x equals 15 over 6. And I can simplify that by 15 over 6 is the same as 5 over 2. So x equals 5 over 2. So that would be the first page of your booklet, question 1 and question 2. Question 3 then started to look at some percentages. And now with percentages, it's often quite easy to pick up the first few marks. So just by reading the question, Ed has a card shop. He buys a particular card for £1.20 and sells it for £1.68. So first thing I'm going to do is note that this is my original and this is my new. So if I want to calculate the percentage profit, it is my change over my original times by 100 to make it a percentage. So my change is the difference between these two values. So 1.68 take away £1.20 is going to be 0.48. I'm going to convert everything to pence just to make my calculations easier. So 48p is the change and 120 is going to be my original times by 100. What I would do is try and work this out as a fraction. Well, I'm dividing by 120, so therefore every 12 is going to be 10%. How many 12s are in 48? Well, it goes 12, 24, 36, 48. There's 4 lots of them, so my percentage would be 40%. That's how I would do it. Otherwise, what you could do, multiply by 100 to get 4800 over 120. When you do that division, you got 480 divided by 12, which again gives you 40, which is your answer. For part B, Ed has a good luck card in 2080 was £360. This was a decrease of 20% of his profit in 2017. So in 2018 it was 360 and that was a decrease of 20%. So 100% take away 20% is 80%. So therefore my amount is only worth 80%. So I'd work out 10% by dividing by 8. And then to get to 100%, which is what I need, I would multiply by 10. 360 divided by 8 is 45. Multiplied by 10 is 450. So therefore my total amount was 450. a sunflower grows at a rate of 4 centimeters each day, how many days does it take to grow from a height of 80 centimeters to more than 1.06 meters? So 4 centimeters each day, and it starts off at 80. So I'm going to first of all convert them to the same unit. So this is 106 centimeters, and then I'm going to subtract them to see how much it has grown. 106 take away 80 is 26. So therefore it has grown 26 centimeters. It does 4 centimeters a day. So therefore I'm just going to go up on my 4s as a table. So that's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, so on, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. The first time that it goes above 26 is this value of 28, which corresponds to 7 days. If the sunflower grows at a faster rate, how would this affect your answer to part A? Well, if it grows at a faster rate, I would be reaching this 26 centimeter change quicker, so it would be less days. Less days to reach the same amount. Okay. The next question was looking at a scatter graph, and now there's quite a few marks for this question, which a few students didn't answer because they either didn't read it or they didn't find the appropriate points. So, the first 7 points are plotted, so that's only these ones which are shaded. We are asked to plot the remaining 4 cars for 2 marks. So we look at our coordinates, 3, 8, 7, 5.6, 8, 5 and 12, 4, and we plot them. So the first value we had was 3, 8. So I'm going to go across to 3 and 8, which would be about here. The next value was 7 and 5.6, I believe. 7 and 5.6. So I'd go to 7 years, which would in between them, and 5.6, which would be about here. Then it was 8 and 5, which would be halfway in between them, so like here. And lastly, 12 and 0.4, which would be here. That would be my first step. My next step is to describe the type and strength of the correlation. Well, we should first of all notice that my graph is going in this direction if I was to draw my line of best fit. So that would be a negative correlation. And these points aren't very close to a straight line. There's a few which are further away. So they are quite close to a straight line because there are a few points close away. There may be an anomaly, but in general, they are very close to this straight line. So therefore, this would be a strong negative correlation. So it would be a strong negative correlation. One car's value lost its money quickly more than one car lost its value more quickly than the other cars. On a scatter diagram, draw a circle around the point representing this car. While looking at here, which point doesn't look like it follows this trend? Well, it would be this value here because it lost nearly like £10,000 in the first 4 years, whereas another car only lost about £2,000. By drawing a line of best fit, estimate the value of a car that is 6 years old. Well, I'm going to do 2 things here then. I'm going to draw my line of best fit. I'm going to draw it in black. And I want to go roughly through these points. So like that. And then if I want to find the estimate for the value of a car that is 6 years old, I'm going to have to go up from 6 years old. So let's draw it from here. So from 6, I'm going to have to go up till I hit my graph. And then I need to go across and read off what this value is. And this value would be about 6.2, 0.4, 0.8. So about £6.9 thousand. So I'd go down to my answers and I'd write in, it would be 6.9 thousand, so therefore it would be £6,900. And you would be able to get a bit of leeway on this question as long as you've got an appropriate line of best fit and also you drew on this scale and read off correctly. Explain the limitations of using the equation of a line of best fit to estimate the value of a car that is 16 years old. Well, if I carried on my line of best fit to 16, which would be over here, my value would be negative, and that would not be appropriate for this scenario. So I'd have a negative value, which is not appropriate. Okay, moving on then, looking at the next question. We have a tree diagram here. Now, in order to look at a tree diagram, we want to know whether it is going to be a replaced or not replaced type of question. Here, Jack picks out a counter and then replaces it. So therefore, my events are going to be independent of each other. So every time I pick a red, it would have the same probability. My value of blue, well, I know that blue, add 4 over 7, is going to equal 1 because I can only pick red or blue. So therefore, what's left over must be 3 over 7. Work out the probability that Jack picks 2 reds. Well, the probability of 2 reds would be 4 over 7 multiplied by, because I've had to go down here, and then I've got red again, so I've had to multiply it by 4 over 7 again. 4 over 7 times 4 over 7. 4 times 4 is 16. 7 times 7 is 49. So my final answer would be 16 over 49. Question 7, talking about Adam, who buys theatre tickets in a sale. The normal prices are £80 for each adult and £40 for each child. In the sale, the prices are reduced by 15%. He buys 2 adults, 1 child. Just going to make a note of that. A 2% booking fee is added on. So, what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to work out the price that he would pay if nothing happened to it, no percentages at all, just what would he pay. So, 2 adults, so 2 lots of 80, plus 1 child, which is 1 lot of 40, is going to equal 80 times 2 is 160, add 40 is £200. So this would be my total with nothing on it. Okay, they're reduced by 15%. Well, 10% is going to be of 200 is 20, 5% is 10, so 15% is 30. So therefore, with the 15% reduction, after 15% taken off, I would get 200, take away 30, which is 170. So I've got so far, but now the last thing is that 2% booking fee applies. And it says it is then added to it. So therefore, what I have to do is I have to think about 170 as my 100%, and I need 2% of it. Well, 1% is £1.70, 2% must be £3.40, so therefore 170 add £3.40 is going to be £173.40. And this would be after 2% added, this was 15% taken away. And this is added. So my final answer would be this £173.40. That is a very expensive theatre, but that is besides the point. Question 8. Miss Mills buys 4 packets of treats for her cats, Fluff and Tigger? Who cares? She gives Fluffs 1/6 of a packet, and she gives Tiger 1/5 of a packet each day. How many complete days will 4 packets of treats last? Well, 1/6 add 1/5 is going to be 5 add 6 over 30. By looking at my cross multiplying, I multiply these values together, and then I have to do 5 times 1 is 5, 6 times 1 is 6. So each day they eat 11/30. 4 days, well, 4, I'm going to turn it into a fraction out of 30, would be 120 out of 30, because 4 times 30 is 120. So I want to know some value times by 11 out of 30 is going to be equal to 120 out of 30. I can just look at the numerators. 120 divided by 11 is going to be equal to 10 point something. So therefore it would be 10 complete days. The reason I know that, by the way, is because 11 squared is 121. So therefore, 120 divided by 11 is going to be 10.9 something. So it would only be 10 complete days. Question 9. We start to look at interior angle of an isosceles triangle P and an exterior angle of Q. It is given that Q equals 5P, write the ratio of P and Q in its simplest form. The easiest way to do this is to pick a value. I'm going to say that P, because it's multiplied, when P equals 1, Q is equal to, well, 5 times 1 is 5, so Q must be equal to 5. I've got a ratio here. When P is equal to 1, which is my first value, my Q is equal to 5. I don't need to simplify it anymore because I chose P was equal to 1. It says work out the two different sets of possible angles for an isosceles triangle. So to do this, I'm going to set up my ratio where Q is going to be 5x and P is going to be x. So therefore, my whole angle, the whole thing, would be 6x. We know that's on a straight line, so that would be equal to 180. So therefore, x must be equal to 30. And now I need to think about the two possible sets of angles. With an isosceles triangle, I know that two sides have to be the same. My two scenarios then are going to be, well, the first scenario is if my base angle is 30, or if I have another triangle, what happens if my top angle is 30? And they would be my two scenarios. So, for scenario 1, if I have 30 degrees, my other base angle must be 30 degrees. So therefore, my final resultant angle, well, this is 60, my final one must be 120. And likewise, if I had an angle now, where I had 30 degrees at the top, my other two angles must be equal, so let's call them y. 2y must equal 150, so y must be equal to 75. So I'd get my other two angles as 75. Okay, question 10. This is where I'm going to pause the video after this last question, so make sure you're having a good go at this and writing notes. For this question, I am going to write 1 over 6 as a recurring decimal, so all I'm going to do is work out how many 6's go into 1. Looking at this, 6's into 1 is 0 remainder 1. 6's into 10 is 1 remainder 4. 6's into 40 is 6 remainder 4. And you should be able to see now that this is going to carry on. So my actual answer is 0.16666 and so on. So we would write that as 0.16 with my little recurring symbol. Elsa divides a two-digit number by another two-digit number. She gets an answer of 0.15 recurring. She says that there is only one possible pair of numbers that will give this answer. Is she correct? So the key thing here is they are both two-digit numbers. So that might come into play later on. But to start off with, I'm just going to work out what two values could possibly be. And to do that, I'm just going to write it as a fraction. A fraction is two values divided by each other. So I'm going to say x equals 0.1555 and so on. So therefore I'm going to multiply by 10 so that I just get my recurring thing on the right hand side of a decimal point. So it's 1.5555. I need to subtract this by another thing with just recurring. So multiplying by 10 again gives me 15.5555. And now I'm happy because what I can do is when I subtract these two equations, I'm going to cancel out. So I end up with 90x equals 14. So therefore x equals 14 over 90. Now they are both two-digit numbers, so I'm happy with that. However, what I can do from this stage is I can try and simplify it, and the only way this simplifies is to 7 and 45. And the distinction here is that this 7 is not a two-digit number. So therefore, there is only one possible pair. and it would be 14 and 90. So she would be correct. And it's that distinction that the 7, the numerator, is not a 2-digit number. So, thank you for watching this video. Part 2 will be uploaded shortly. Please make sure that you are taking notes, and if you have any questions, or maybe you did it a different way and aren't sure whether it's right or not, please come and find me and I'll try and help you out. Thank you very much for watching.